stuck here. The cops won't bother me.
Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you guys about Bernie Sanders. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and kind of amazing that he had Bernie Sanders. I wasn't expecting Bernie Sanders to be on the podcast. When I saw the name, Joe Rogan, Bernie Sanders, I was like, what the hell? And I tried to listen to it, and of course my internet broke, so I had to try and fix it, but I was desperate to hear what the hell Bernie Sanders was going to be talking about in the Joe Rogan podcast. Definitely not MMA, but goddamn, man, Joe Rogan's getting these really interesting people on his podcast. And now that he's had one of the candidates, and I think he's had three, I think he's had Andrew Yang, and he had Tulsi Gabbard. And I think part of the law, if you have a candidate that's running for political office and you give him an hour, you have to give every other one an hour of your time as well. So, man, that guy completely cut the minivan off. Jeez, did you guys see that? I was not expecting that. Fucking people. Maybe Bernie Sanders will do something about people's IQs. So anyway, Bernie Sanders was on, and I listened to the podcast, and I'm going to admit to you guys that I listened to the podcast more than once. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I think I listened to it 4 times. And I went on YouTube, because that's how I consume most of Joe Rogan's podcasts. And I saw that he's up already to 6.5 million views. And I believe Joe Rogan's highest is Elon Musk's interview where he smoked weed and got in trouble. And I think it's at 20 million. But this Bernie podcast is already one of his top 15 podcasts. And he's only been on the podcast for a week. Normally, Bernie did mention something that stood out. A lot of things he said stood out. It's pretty difficult to talk about issues for about an hour. Normally in the debates, they have the candidates talk for about 30 seconds to a minute on each topic. And the way he puts it, it's very difficult to explain healthcare in 30 seconds to the American public. And it is a very antiquated way of having debates. We do have the internet. There are ways of hosting better debates, and quite frankly, having these candidates explain their position on popular podcasts like the Joe Rogan podcast is probably one of the best ways to get their agenda out there. Rogan, at the end, Joe Rogan, this is something that pisses me off about Fox News. They're looking for these gotcha moments, and at the end, Joe Rogan kiddingly asks Bernie, who, by the way, is kind of uptight and a little too serious. He asked him about aliens. And if he ever knows something about aliens, he has to come and talk to him, whatever, something like that. And Bernie answers, and of course, a day later, Fox News puts out the video saying that Bernie has information on aliens. I mean, just crazy, gotcha, sort of taken out of context sort of stuff. And the last 12 seconds of the interview, after Bernie Sanders spoke for an hour, that's what they grabbed. And this kind of goes to show you how Fox News is not really a news source. I mean, that's very... How can you possibly call yourself a real news source when you do that stuff? I mean, it's clear to anybody who listened to it that has nothing to do with aliens. That was a lighthearted question by Joe Rogan to close out the interview. And they wanted, I mean, it basically comes down to money and getting a bunch of views, and very cheap views, and normally something that should be beneath these media companies. You know, I don't blame YouTubers for doing clickbait sort of stuff, because, you know, they're trying to get viewers and subscribers, and it doesn't seem as bad as having Fox News try and do clickbait out of a 12-second clip that's completely out of context. I would love to have some sort of app that would let people vote just using their phones. Like it would have to be extremely secure, and the internet, I guess, is not secure at this point. So, yeah, but there's got to be some way. I mean, like, we have banking online. I can go to my bank, withdraw money, send it to various banks. If I can do that, why can't I vote? Listen to that motor roar, man. I'm gonna try and jump on the left lane because it's a little bit safer. Hanging out in any other lane feels a little bit more dangerous. I just feel pretty bad about the Democratic candidates. I do feel more Democratic leaning than conservative. But is this the best that we got? You know, like, Democrats have been kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And I'll give you one example. That stupid Senderman thing when they were in the rally in DC and the Native American came up to this high school kid beating his drum. And I know very intelligent people, and they were going like, "How? Look at the smugness of that kid's face. I just like to punch him." Really vicious people, like vicious comments coming from very rational, or what I would hope is rational people, claiming that this kid was racist. And then I was like pulling up videos, like it's just something is a little off about it. Pulled up videos and it was nothing. I mean, like, if I was a kid and some guy came and started beating a drum in my face, I don't think I would be as composed as that Senderman kid. It's quite a shame that they painted Democrats, liberals, painted him as being a racist. You know, when you can call everybody a racist and a Nazi, it kind of removes the weight behind that name and those words. Like, it really does. Like, there's nothing in it. So whenever now I hear one of my friends call somebody a Nazi, I just go like, oh, okay, I need to figure out who the hell are they talking about, because I have to take things with a grain of salt. Like, liberals have lost their just minds. That's how I feel about it. Like, I almost feel more aligned with conservatives than I feel with liberals. I mean, like, they've lost their minds. They completely lost their minds. And yeah, I speak from experience of being around liberals. I mean, they are so angry at the things around them that they're not seeing the whole picture. I know that a lot of people don't like me talking about politics, and I am not politically a very political person. That's the thing, but when you live in DC, everybody talks about politics. This is a soap opera. That's what I tell people. If Donald Trump was not a president, like, if somebody else was a president that was conservative, people would still complain about the same things. Like, it doesn't really matter who the president is. I mean, Donald Trump is not a racist. Donald Trump is an asshole. That's quite a big difference. He is a super douche asshole. That's all he is. He's not a racist or a Nazi. He's just an asshole.